Stop. Just stop for a moment. Pause everything. Take a deep breath. I know you feel small, like what you're doing doesn't matter, like your daily work is invisible, insignificant, pointless. And maybe you've been thinking, what's the point? I'm not changing anything. I'm not making a difference. My work is too small to matter. And I need to tell you something that will change how you see every small thing you do. The Grand Canyon wasn't carved by an earthquake. It was carved by water, drop by drop, year after year, for millions of years. Small work done consistently changes the world more than any grand gesture ever could. Let me tell you what you've been feeling. You show up every day. You do the work. You take the small steps. You make the tiny contributions. And it feels like nothing. Like you're shouting into a void. Like you're pushing a boulder that never moves. You see other people making big splashes, going viral, getting recognized, making real impact. And you look at your work, your quiet, consistent, invisible work, and you think, this doesn't matter. I'm wasting my time. I should be doing something bigger. So you start to resent the small work. You start to dismiss it. You start to believe that unless it's big, unless it's noticed, unless it's dramatic, it doesn't count. But that's not how change works. That's not how the world works. That's not how anything meaningful gets built. Let me tell you about the day I felt completely invisible. I was 28 years old. I'd already worked in corporate hell for many years and was desperate for a big change. I wanted to build something that actually mattered, something that made a meaningful impact in the world. So I joined a tiny startup in Austin. I was one of the earliest employees. We were also practically broke. No money to make payroll. About 10 people total. The office was next to I-35 in Southeast Austin. The entrance was by these huge dumpsters and an alley. It was truly shady, smelly, and police sirens were constantly in the background. I'd gone from working in swanky corporate offices to this, but I believed in the mission. And it was late afternoon on a Tuesday, Texas summer, searing hot. I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. The office had this open floor plan with fake offices. They had walls but no ceilings, which meant you could hear every conversation happening anywhere. And the lights there were mostly dimmed to save on electricity costs. The whole place also smelled. It had this industrial smell. And that afternoon, I could hear the owner and one of his associates in the office. They were reviewing everyone in the company, deciding whose head to chop off, who needed to be fired to reduce costs and survive. I wasn't worried. I knew how much value I brought. I was there before everyone in the late morning, last one to leave at night. I even helped clean the office. I did tasks far beyond my role because I deeply cared about the mission. Then I heard them ask about me. And the associate, who was also an investor, said loudly, "What about Armando? What value does he bring to this company?" I'm not sure I see any, to be honest. My stomach felt like I had just been stabbed. My heart raised, I froze, and I kept my head down, and my face flushed red with blood. I was so embarrassed. Through the corner of my eye, I could see colleagues turning their heads to look at me. Everyone knew I cared more than anyone about that company succeeding. And here's the thing, I'd made so many sacrifices to be there. I was earning a negligible salary, living basically at the poverty line. The opportunity cost of a normal competitive salary anywhere else was massive. I wasn't there for the money. I was there to build the future with the team, to be able to help my family, to make them proud, to do something meaningful and greater than myself. And these guys had just written it all off, as if none of it mattered. Then the CEO stepped in and he said, "You can't be referring to Armando, the one who works here. Are you blind? Are you even in the office? Armando works harder than anyone in this company. He's here before anyone. He's the last one to go. He comes in on weekends. He's on call late at night, every night. He barely gets paid. His dedication to this company is greater than anyone I've known, and his loyalty is unquestioned. I can't believe you'd even suggest he brings no value." The associate apologized. They moved on. But I'll never forget that moment. Hearing them question my value through a wall while I was sitting right there. It was like hearing a secret talk over a loudspeaker. Embarrassing, but also very revealing. And I made a decision in that moment. I could have tried to make one big splash, pitch one brilliant idea, create one viral moment to prove my value, come in with theatrics and gifs and over-the-top gestures like some people did. In fact, I watched many people come and go from that company who did exactly that. They made big gestures. They were over the top in trying to show and prove their commitment. Lots of theatrics, smooth talking, parlor tricks. And it didn't save them. It didn't enable them to build the company because they were gone. Because I knew something they didn't. The work I did mattered far more than words or theatrics or parlor tricks or smooth talking. I knew the drops I was placing every single day were building something monumental. And the CEO had stood up for me when no one else had. In fact, my previous bosses had taken me for granted, saw me as a threat, belittled me, boxed me in. But this CEO believed in me at a fundamental level. And he was preparing to propel me farther ahead than anyone ever had. So I decided, I'm staying, I'm fighting for this company, I'm supporting this CEO no matter what. Not because I felt valued in that moment, but because I knew the drops I was placing every single day would add up to something, even if I couldn't see it yet. Let me show you what I mean. The Grand Canyon is one of the most magnificent structures on Earth. It's a mile deep, 277 miles long, carved into solid rock. Most people would assume it was created by something massive, a volcanic eruption, an earthquake, a sudden dramatic event. But that's not what happened. The Grand Canyon was carved by the Colorado River, drop by drop, year after year, for millions of years. Each drop of water on its own did nothing, didn't even leave a mark. But millions, billions, trillions of drops flowing in the same direction over and over, day after day, year after year, they carved something through solid stone. That's what small, consistent work does. It doesn't feel powerful in the moment. One drop doesn't feel like it's changing anything. But a million drops, a billion, a trillion drops, they reshape the world. And that's what I was doing. Every morning arriving first, every night leaving last, every weekend working from home, every late night until 10 p.m. or later, every dollar I forwent, every moment I showed up even when it felt pointless. I was a drop of water, and I was carving a canyon. 3 years later, I was 31, And I remember walking into a corner office that was now mine in a tower in downtown Austin. The company had grown from 10 people to around 150 employees. Within a year, it would grow to 200. I was now officially a co-founder. I was also the VP of product for the entire company. I had equity ownership in the business. I led different teams. So I sat in the chair of my new office and I looked out into the skyline of Austin. It was early morning. The sun's rays were bouncing off the crowns and spires of the tallest skyscrapers, including my favorite, the emblematic Frost Tower. It's a building that's captivated my imagination since I was a little kid. In that room, that office had so much natural light, so much space, a couch, wall space for art, a whiteboard. And I remember I was all alone in that moment, and I thought, how did I even get here? Just 3 years earlier, the company was struggling to make any money. We couldn't pay ourselves. In fact, I had agreed to forego payment until they could pay me later. And in that moment, seeing the Frost Tower put everything in perspective, how far we had come, how much we had suffered and overcome, lawsuits, threats from competitors, issues of all sorts. Yet we made it. The company also, I remembered, adopted a new cap table software. And I remember the day I logged into my account and I saw how much my equity or stocks in the company were worth, I was shocked. 7 figures. It felt surreal, like something you only see in movies. And it showed me that one day, all the sacrifice and hard work I put in would pay off, literally. I also remember new employees walking around the building. When I would walk into a room or the kitchen, they would go quiet. I could see them all observing me quietly, talking. I remember how one day a new hire on the sales team approached me in the kitchen while I was getting my coffee, wearing a suit, all dressed up. He seemed nervous, but he knew what he was doing. He wanted to win my favor because he knew I mattered in that company. And he said, "Wow, you're Armando. You're one of the co-founders. We've heard all about you. You're a legend. It's an honor to meet you." I mean, how do you think I felt? I was now considered high-ranking, powerful, influential, important, someone who carried authority in that company. But the moment that showed me what I'd really built, that came much later. Eventually, I left, and sometime after I left the company, the CEO told me about my goodbye party, about something that I'd said while I was a bit drunk. Apparently, I had recounted that moment from the earliest days when I heard them questioning my value through those walls, how I always remembered it, and how after I heard him defend me and stand up for me, I made the conscious decision to stay and fight for that company and support him no matter what. And the CEO, he told me, "Armando, your story made me so emotional. I had to leave the party for a bit to cry and clear my tears before I could come back." That moment started to show me the impact I, along with the rest of the team, had made throughout the past years. And of course, it required relentless effort. We had to have faith to keep going, to work and do more and more and more and more, even when there were no immediate results or rewards, even when the outcome wasn't guaranteed, even when failure seemed like the most likely result. Of course, my parents were extremely proud. My friends, everyone looked at me with deep admiration. To think that I had been a major part of the origin story of that company. But there's a twist. Here's what happened. Over the years, tension started to grow between the CEO and me. Despite him being very supportive overall, we did butt heads a lot. We were often misaligned on culture, strategy. I started getting siloed, removed from important initiatives. I was even catching rumors that my head was on the chopping block. So I took an impulse trip to Colombia. I needed a change in scenery. I was burning out. And it was growing every day. And then, out of nowhere, while I was on a beach in Cartagena, it hit me. I had made a big impact. I had proven to myself that I could accomplish big things. But it was time to move on to the next thing. Oddly, a few weeks earlier, my dad had asked me, "What's next?" He understood all I had done and accomplished at the company that I helped build and transform. But he knew that ultimately that wasn't my goal or dream. He knew I had bigger dreams. So my dad looked me deep in my eyes because he knew me all too well. He's my dad. And he asked me again, "What's next?" So I made the decision to leave the company. And unfortunately, a year later, that company collapsed. Mismanagement, financial issues, major shift in culture. I was devastated. I felt a deep sense of shame. I remember I tuned into the Chapter 7 bankruptcy hearing virtually, and it made me so sad to see everything I had hoped to build and grow disappear instantly with the swing of a federal judge's gavel. The product, the people that we helped, my equity evaporating into thin air. But here's what I realized. The canyon doesn't disappear when the river stops flowing. Because in fact, many of the employees from that company, including myself, went off and started their own companies. I can think of at least 10 new companies that were born from that one collapse. It wasn't the death of anything. It was the next step for many of us to go and do the next big thing. The people I trained, many of them are doing big things, big jobs at big companies. Some started their own companies and now they're seeing success. Me? I've since built my own tech company, Hang Tight. It's an app for college student housing. It's used across campuses all over the US. It's impacting the lives of thousands of students. So what I learned is this: I can do anything I set my heart and mind to. But it's important to have a clear vision of what you want and to ensure that you have deep humility every step of the way, drop by drop, because you can lose it all just as fast as you made it. The river can go dry. So take nothing for granted, but also enjoy and celebrate all your wins and your success. Let them serve as a testament to what you're capable of achieving. And I know personally, this is merely my beginning. I know there's so much more I want to do in life, so many other businesses and products and endeavors that I will venture into over the coming years, including film, food, hospitality, travel. That is to say, the canyon I built at that first startup remains forever as proof, as monument, as a reminder of what I'm capable of when I put my heart, my mind, and my soul into something. Because you can't erase a canyon, even when the river moves on. Now, let me tell you why small work matters more than big gestures. Because big gestures are events. Small work is a system. Think about it. A motivational speech can inspire you for a day, but daily habits change your life. A viral post can get attention for a week, but consistent content builds an audience. A grand donation can make headlines, but small acts of kindness build a community. Big gestures create moments. Small work creates momentum. And momentum is what actually changes things. Momentum is what builds careers, relationships, movements, legacies. Big gestures get attention. Small work gets results. And the cruel part, the world celebrates the big gestures. The world notices the events. The world applauds the moments. But the real work, the consistent, quiet, invisible work, that's what actually builds everything. But here's what I learned the hard way. Even when you build something magnificent, the river doesn't flow forever. So let me tell you what your daily work actually is. Every email that you send with care, that's a drop. Every conversation where you truly listen, that's a drop. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, that's a drop. Every small act of kindness, patience, creativity, effort, drop by drop, you're carving. You won't see the canyon today. You won't even see it tomorrow. You might not see it for years. But it's forming slowly, inevitably, permanently. And one day, you'll look back and realize, I built something, not in one moment, in a million small moments. The person whose life you changed won't remember one big gesture. They won't. They'll remember the 100 small moments you showed up. The work you're proud of also wasn't built in one burst of inspiration. It was built in 1,000 quiet hours of effort. The legacy you leave won't be the highlight reel. It'll be the consistency. So stop dismissing the small work. Stop waiting for the big moment. Stop believing that unless it's dramatic, it doesn't matter. Every drop matters, and you're placing them every single day. The canyon is forming, even if you can't see it. And even when the river eventually moves on, when circumstances change, when companies collapse, when chapters end, the canyon remains. It's still there as proof, as monument, as testament to what you built, your heart, mind, and soul. So here's what I need you to do. Stop waiting for the big moment. Stop measuring your impact by what's visible today, right now. Just place one more drop today. Do the small work. Show up. Take the next step. Make the small contribution. Not because it feels significant, not because anyone will notice, not because you'll see the result today or even tomorrow, but because that's how canyons get carved, drop by drop, day by day, year by year. And if you need to remember, if the small work feels pointless today, leave a comment down below. Just type, I'm carving a canyon. Say it out loud, because when you stop waiting for the earthquake and start trusting the river, you realize your small work is changing everything. Remember, you are not insignificant. Your work is not pointless. Your daily efforts are not wasted. You're a river, and rivers carve canyons, not in a day, but drop by drop, year after year, inevitably. The person who once heard, I don't see any value through a wall, is now building companies that impact thousands. So the drops kept flowing and the canyon kept forming. So I need you to keep flowing. Keep placing drops and trust that the canyon is forming. Because even when the river moves on, the canyon remains.